Hey, welcome everybody to the podcast. My name is Ollie, and we're going to be interviewing the lovely Paula Rhodes. Hi, Paula.
Hi.
Hope everyone's having a great day. For those of you who aren't familiar with Paula, Paula was Eveline in Resident Evil 7, the creepy little girl, the antagonist, I guess, the mastermind behind the whole thing. All 11, 12 years of her, probably. uh, Paula, for people who don't know much about your backstory and your career, can you kind of give them some insight about what you've done in the industry so far up until this point? Maybe some of your bigger
Oh
roles,
gosh.
some things they might recognize you from.
Yes, obviously Evelyn would be the intro point for most of these the watchers right now. I've done a lot, acting on camera and via voice acting, as well as producing and directing. So you probably see me on a couple commercials right now, or in the past I saw you things like various dog foods. I think right now I'm in a Hidden Valley Ranch seasoning commercial. Uh, a lot of voices from everything from let's see, Final Fantasy Type Zero. I do a character, Barbie Life in the Dream House. I do Skipper and Stacy, two of Barbie's
Yep.
sisters. I do. I mean, it runs the gamut. The all sorts of fun characters. There's so many. I'm like, wait, is that out yet? Can I say that? I did just have the news break that I'm a new character in the Fire Emblem universe, which is well, not new. She's been around for a while, but I get to her her first voice, I suppose, Miranda for Fire Emblem Heroes. And yeah, I mean, I've been on Bunked for Disney. I guess I do a lot of Disney tastic stuff. I've played Wendy Darling for the New Adventures of Peter and Wendy, which was a really fun
Huh.
web series for 3 years. So Evelyn is a little different
Yeah, I
than
was
some
gonna
of those
say
characters.
this is not your usual forte of character work.
Although villains are so fun. I did a villain for also for a Ever After High movie.
Hmm.
So you know what? It's a wide smattering, but I wouldn't change it. I love it. I love storytelling and being able to jump into different people's skins. I suppose, be they animated or otherwise.
Yeah, definitely. It's got to be interesting to like that's such a contrast of you know Barbie to Resident Evil 7. Uh,
Well, yeah, Doc McStuffins character too.
Doc McStuffins, that's
I
right, you were on there
will
as well.
I will spew mold at you character. But that's kind of what makes it interesting, is that as actors and as storytellers, we get to be these other people and explore a kind of a wider spectrum of being.
Right. How do you uh how do you flip the switch in your mind to go from Doc McStubbins and Barbie to an evil character like Evelyn or Evie on Resident Evil 7?
So often they're different days, which makes it
Yeah.
easier.
Yeah.
um, I would say that we all have that a spectrum of character within us, from mustache twisting villain to just pure delight childhood, uh, and it's really acting in general is such a journey of discovering what works within yourself to open those doors to those various characters that the part of you that is those characters.
Right.
uh, so sometimes it's just trial and error and seeing what works, which sometimes doesn't, and other times it's almost magic. It's like you just see what they look like and you just know what they're going to sound like, and you're able to bring that to life. And when it's magic, it's so fun. But everybody has a different process for it, and it's almost hard to put into words.
Yeah, yeah,
But
I can
the
imagine.
discovery of the path is really is fun. Is tapping into those ways in which to give yourself permission, I guess,
Yeah,
to
that's a
act.
good way to look at it. To give yourself permission. A lot of people are very
Right.
reserved, and I think that's why it's a difficult skill to be an actor because you have to be comfortable with not being yourself or being yourself in front of a large audience or a large group of people to put yourself out there without worrying about what are they thinking. You have to
It's true.
completely,
And I think
yeah,
that's the most real in like a theater position where you're in front of
right, right,
people. And it's a different skill entirely. In some ways, a billion times easier to do it in my dark closet booth over there, where no one else really is watching, or maybe just the director's watching or something. To be a complete fool for whatever character you need to be. It's it's easier to play, I suppose, initially that way. But I think most people that are drawn to this profession, we have maybe something broken in us that requires us to make fools of ourselves on some level. I don't know, or missing that fear gene in just that little area. Um, Self embarrassment. We get like a
Embracing,
weird pleasure from it.
yeah,
Um,
embracing the silliness of it, embracing the fear, or the challenge.
Never wanting to let go of playing. That just pure 5-year-old imagination. Yes, and I am this character.
How did you get into acting to begin with?
Um, it felt like an almost natural progression, and then I feel like I probably was always a bit of a ham. I was when I was 4, I memorized, and mind you, this was in the era of VHS tapes, so required some work of rewinding. The Conan the Barbarian movie, and as a little tiny 4-year-old would enact this for my parents, much to their amusement. I did a great Schwarzenegger at that age, and I I guess I was always, doing school plays and things. And then when I was in college, I entered a pageant as a joke to kind of amuse my friends because I'm 5 feet tall. I am not glamorously pageant-tastic.
That was going to lead me to a question later that I will come back to, because I was wondering about the motion capture, because I was like, I imagine you're probably a little bit taller, but
I'm
you're
I'm
5 foot, so
wee.
yeah, so you're.
My special skill is being 12-year-old slimed. Uh, and so we entered this, and I ended up winning, much to the surprise of my father and the audience, who you just hear yell "What?" when they called my name. Thanks, Dad. And I
Support system.
kind of parlayed that. I parlayed that into getting an internship with one of the judges in New York City that summer, and I started to realize I learned the business side of it, technically, of this industry, which was so different from Missouri. It's a pipe dream in Missouri to say you want to be a professional storyteller. At least it was at the time. There might be ways to do it now in the Midwest. There's more markets. But at the time, you kind of had to be in one of the cities where this is done. And so being there for the summer and seeing the business side of it and learning, what was involved, and who was able to make it work, and realizing some of them were a lot dumber than I was. And I was like, oh, this might not be impossible. Uh, it it made me braver. It made me willing to try to take the leap. So much to my parents' worry for a few years, I tossed aside corporate world or using my degree, and went out there and gave it a whirl. And I guess it's still working because it's been like 8 eons or something, and
You're able to make a
it
career out of it.
keeps me doing it. But yeah, it was. There's a lot of leaps of faith involved in any sort of creative endeavor, and I think having faith in yourself is both one of the hardest and easiest things to do
Yeah.
at the same weird time. But I am so thankful that I did it.
Hmm.
It's never something you're going to regret if you take that leap of faith in yourself.
Yeah.
Um, and if you actually put in the time to to learn about it, you really have to educate yourself in whatever field you're going to go into.
Right.
Uh, just the technical aspects, the craft of it. But if you can do that, nothing's impossible. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
you can find your niche within the realm, I guess. And I still feel like I'm finding it. I'm still, finding the next little handhold to pull up. But I wouldn't trade it.
It's a good way to put it. Have faith in yourself. Whatever you do in life, whatever you're trying to do, whatever your passions are, put some faith in yourself first.
And
You're not.
you gotta have a good tribe around yourself, and that some people don't come with it naturally. I have a wonderful family, and they were emotionally supportive up the wazoo, but they couldn't financially support me. So in that aspect, it was scary.
Yeah.
But there's always a way to find your footing, especially I think it's probably terribly easier when you're at 20 as opposed to be starting out later because you don't know any better. But by kind of amassing good people around you whose skills you respect and whose character you respect, you
Right.
start to get a really great team of collaborators around you to make these things possible. And uh, gosh, I lucked into some good ones along my journey. So I couldn't do this alone
Yeah,
by
very
any
good
stretch of the
advice. Both points there. The having faith in yourself and surrounding yourself with good people, people that will help you achieve your dreams, basically. Because if you surround yourself with negative people, they're going to constantly be making you second guess yourself. But if you surround yourself with the right group of people that encourage you or have similar mindsets, you can work together at
inspire
your goals,
you.
inspire you. That's very good advice. And we don't always get to pick our family. We could definitely pick our
Yeah.
friends, and we can pick the people that we associate with. So there you go. uh, I did notice a couple questions so far. I am scanning the chat, guys. So I see there is a question from. Let me go back here. You guys might. I don't know if you can see the mouse on the screen there. Here, let me move this over here so that way it's not showing up. Let's see. Brian Sedino, Brian, do you like pizza?
Don't I? No, I mean, yeah, yes, a lot.
A lot, but no, because it's not entirely good for us.
Oh, right. I'm supposed to mom it up too. My kids would be terribly thrilled if we got it every night. Is that? But we probably we know our local pizza delivery.
Pretty well. Pretty well. Yeah.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
And I am in the pro pineapple camp.
Me too.
Although
I
I'm
like
alone in
pineapple.
that in my family.
All these people that don't like pineapple on it, just give it a chance.
Oh, just try it.
Just try it.
Open
It's not that
open your mouth.
bad. I did see one from Chumpy Man says, "Have you ever done voices for a theme park ride?" I don't think I've ever had anyone ask that question before.
What an interesting question. No, but when I was first getting into almost, I suppose is the answer.
Hmm.
When I was first getting into voiceover and took a class, one of the like guest teachers, I guess, was someone who cast for Disney parks, and voice matches are things that they constantly look for because think of the holiday rides, like
Hmm.
you're doing a Christmas update or something, and they might have somebody have Alice say, Happy Halloween. Um, we discovered that I actually do match that character pretty well. The same actress played Wendy Darling and Alice,
Right, right.
so I can match most of her cadences and tones and things. So I was very close, and someday I hope. And I've definitely auditioned for a few. I know they were looking for the new character in Pirates of the Caribbean ride for a while, the Red Pirate.
Hmm.
I got to read for that. I knew I was probably a big stretch because I sound like a 12-year-old pirate, um, but yes, here's what goals. Goals is what that
Goals,
is.
right? That's an interesting goal to have too. It's not something I would actually like immediately jump to as a voice actor to think, okay, I can do theme park rides. you know?
Right? I
But
have a
yeah.
friend who's done his character from a Transformers movie on the Transformers ride at Universal,
Oh,
and
cool.
that was pretty epic. It's still neat to go in there and be like, Glenn.
Yeah, I can actually hear you. You're here too.
Yeah.
And the amount of people that get to go through that ride and hear your voice as well. But you think there's also um, commercials, voiceover for talk shows, answering
Yeah,
voicemail messages. I mean, there's such a variety of stuff that people can do.
voiceover is a huge profession at this
Hmm.
point, and there are people all over the world that do it from their local, closets and booths that they
Yeah,
set up professionally. And yeah, they do it for different companies. They do it for radio shows, announcing what's coming up next for each show,
yeah, exactly.
TV
Yeah.
shows. There is a wide depth of options these days for things that need voices.
I listen to a wide variety of music on the radio, but I feel like whenever I'm listening to a rock station, it's always the same guy saying, "You're listening to whatever station this is." And that guy must be making money. He's probably living in
And
his house. He records it, I'm
there's a
sure, in
couple
his own
guys, but
studio, and yeah,
yeah.
and he just that's all
If
he
they can
does
get the Pandora gig, they're set for a while.
all day. You just gotta say, "I'm listening to so and so. I'm listening. You're listening to so and so."
It's a full-time job for a lot
Yeah.
of those people that they end up having to get assistants to help edit. I do know some people who've been voices of different networks for different stuff, and that is like you're on call. They're like, oh, you need to introduce this show now, and you're jumping in your booth to do that.
Oh wow. Yeah.
So I mean, and if you're the voice of the network, that pays wonderfully to do
Yeah.
so. But other ones, it's a living, but it's not. They're not rolling up in schmancy cars.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
But they're paying the
uh,
bills.
yeah, there's books on tape. There's an entire universe of voice actors out there doing fun and silly things in our closets.
Is that your booth behind you that you pointed at with that
I
ladder
do.
going up
It's
the
a
top?
hidden door.
I see
kind
that. I
of.
kind of see the outline of it. Yeah.
Yeah, we built it
That's
in
cool.
there.
Yeah.
It's probably I'm tiny, as we mentioned, and so it's uniquely policized, which I probably should have thought of being able to have other people in if need be later. But for now, it's great for me.
It's perfect. Yeah, I think people don't realize that too. That you can do this from home if you have the right setup, and it doesn't take much to get the right setup. Not everybody has to build a nice booth with a mystery hideaway door, but
Yeah, right. We
I
got a little
mean,
carried away. We like mysteries, but
but
we
you're at the point where this is your job. You need to have the right setup. But if you're just getting into it, you get some acoustic blankets or some acoustic foam. Go into your
there's tips
closet.
for
Just yeah,
yeah.
just seal it off.
Uh, there's entire forums all over the place that kind of do
Yep.
rundowns on mics and setups. So there's definitely a way to do it if there's a will.
Yeah, definitely.
But there was a big scramble at the start of this, new normal that we all love so much, um, for most of us actors to update our booths and things because it became required.
Yeah.
We were used to, having at least an audition setup where you could do an audition at home, or if you really wanted a little help with it, you could go into your agent's office to
Hmm.
rock it, and then if you booked it, you went to the studio.
Hmm.
Not so much
Not
anymore.
not so much
Rare
now.
occurrence.
Right.
So while they have been able to do it safely, and I've even done some mocap since this went down, because I mean it's a magic medium where you can have the director come sliding up on a robot on an iPad and give you direction, and you're 30 feet away from the other
Yeah.
actor, and they can just make you closer in post. uh, it's uniquely suited for that. But yeah, most of the stuff now for voiceover we're doing by ourselves with a little Zoom up here
Yep.
telling us, directing us, and recording remotely or on our end.
It's amazing. I want to give a shout out to a couple of our people in chat, some of our fellow content creators. I see Crimson Head is there. Hey, Crimson. Which Paula's been on with Crimson before. If you guys haven't heard that podcast, make sure you go check it out. I see Where's Barry, Nemesis. I saw Benson. What's up, Benson? Benson is the face model for Resident Evil 3 Carlos. He's been
All right.
very active. He's been playing a lot of great games on his channel. So if you guys aren't following Benson, go check out his channel. So how, coming from your normal routine of work, how did you wind up in something like Resident Evil 7?
Routine.
Yeah.
How did I what?
And wind up in something like Resident Evil 7.
Oh, that was a fun story. So we'd mentioned having this wonderful family,
Mm-hmm.
pseudo family around you. I have in particular some women that I'm just like very close with that are amazing creators in their own right, as well as actors and directors and otherwise. And one of them, America Young, is just a gem of a human, as well as director, stunt coordinator. You know her from a bajillion things. I think she's she Batgirl? She's Batgirl right now as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
As directing tons of episodes of stuff. But she had referred me to somebody she knew who was looking for somebody uniquely policized because of the mocap to
Right.
play this character. And I was like, yeah, give him my name. Cool. I'll happily audition. And the call ended up coming about an hour after I'd had my first baby in the hospital.
Wow.
And I thought it was my aunt's number, and I answered it thinking that. And it was not. They were asking if I would like to come in and audition the next day, and I was so excited. And I'm like, oh my gosh, amazing! I would love to. Yes, I did just have a baby like an hour ago.
Like literally.
I don't know if I'll be out in time tomorrow. And they were like, what? And luckily for me, the producer is just this amazing woman who is also a mother, and was like, girl, give yourself 2 weeks. And she was like, don't worry, we would love to see you in 2 weeks. It's fine. We have time. And I was like, oh, okay. So we scheduled the audition for then. And I believe my husband drove me and was like holding our newborn and went in there with us. It's fine. He was there.
Yeah.
And, you're auditioning for Capcom as well as the English directors that were there.
Mm-hmm.
So we had this whole kind of team around us, and you're in a mocap studio, which is essentially like an airline hangar, with markings on the floor.
Right.
And it was, I think, my first or second experience with mocap, so I was new to it. But I'd been given the scene, and I auditioned and for a character, and they were trying out different accents and different things. And then at some point, they were like, "That was great. Can we switch roles and have you do this old lady too?" Which, unbeknownst to me, they were Eveline obviously is a character who ages and
Right.
you know
We see different,
diversity.
the two variations of her in the game.
And I was like, sure, completely like, I've never said these lines out loud. But I kind of just ran with it and tried. And they were like, thank you so much. And because they're incredibly polite at all times. But I walked out of there and told my husband as we got in the car, I'm like, I don't know if I've ever bombed an audition so badly. I was so bad. Oh my God, I was so bad. and but remarkably, about 10 minutes after that, I got the call before we even got home that they wanted to book me.
Perfect.
So shows what I know. That happens sometimes with our silly acting instincts. But yeah, so that began a year plus long journey of just working with wonderful people and getting into this amazing world of motion capture, which is 1,012% imagination, you know,
Yeah.
uh, using this pool noodle for a sword, or pushing this door that's supposed to be heavy that is really just somebody holding a broom handle. It's so fun though. It really is when you and watching the other actors what they brought to the table. Man, they're gifted.
They really are. Your fellow castmates from Seven are all very wonderful people. I've had so much fun getting to know them and just share experiences doing interviews or RoCon or the Christmas special that we did. There's so many awesome experiences with them, and I love all the Resident Evil cast. But I feel like from
Watching
Seven to
Sarah
recent
and
has
I think I was the first day there watching Sarah and Katie even just rehearse a scene. Uh, which was a surreal day because we did the table read.
Mhm.
Somewhere in the middle of the table read, one of the writers or somebody accidentally uh, let the Resident Evil name slip,
Oh,
and that was the first time all of them, which most of them had already been working for a few months on
right, but
this.
they didn't know.
Um, they were like, "Oh, what?"
What are we working at?
They might have only used like the term umbrella or something, and we kind of were like, "Click, click, 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 click."
Yeah.
But it was an exciting day of like, wait, what camera are you in? And then getting to see Katie and Sarah act, and I was like, oh, I gotta step up my game. Oh, okay, there we
Yeah.
go. Let's do this. So I'm just incredibly thankful for the experience and the people that I got to work with on that one.
I think Sarah is the one whose character is so far out there from her normal personality, because like Jack and the rest of the cast, like they fit their characters. Like, okay, I see that's within your range. It's more that's more of you in the character. Sarah, on the other hand, is completely opposite of Marguerite.
A billion times, yes. She's just, a bubble of light as a human. A
Right?
silly, silly, silly light, um, with a beautiful puppy. And yet
Yeah,
there
Ruben.
she is becoming these, just so believably wicked, deliciously evil characters. Um, yeah, she's a real gift.
Yeah, I've noticed. WFB3 says you look a lot like Catherine O'Hara. Did you get that?
Oh,
You
thank
ever
you.
heard that?
No,
No one has ever said that.
I will take it.
I think so
Day
too. I'm
and
watching. I'm like, oh, that's Kevin's mom right there. That's Home Alone. You do look a lot like her.
my kids are really into that, which is hilarious. We showed it to them at Christmas, and now they quote it at times, which is hilarious to see a little 5-year-old and 3-year-old quoting lines rule. But thank you.
Also, some people have said you look like Allison Court. Allison Court, who was Claire Redfield for a very long time in the series. You do have some similarities to her as well, but you're Paula. uh,
I thank you to all of you. It must be a great filter or whatever is on. I'm gonna keep it.
so
To be fair, this is the first day in probably a week or so that I've done my hair and makeup, so feeling pretty good.
we
Our new
really don't.
normal.
Yeah, we really don't have to
Yeah.
do that much nowadays,
Now
unless
you're like, oh,
you're.
I have a Zoom meeting. I should
Yeah,
get ready.
just
Go
top
pick up
up.
some groceries.
Top up. It's like my wife was doing a Zoom call the other day, and it was for work, so she just puts her work shirt on. She's
Oh
wearing
yeah,
pajama buttons and
for
house
sure.
slippers, and it's like,
We've all done the blazer over
yep,
trick,
I'm
which
professional.
I realize I'm saying that with a jacket on, but I promise I actually have. Well, I realize I actually have yoga pants on, but it's fine. It's fine, guys. It's fine.
Hey, it's comfortable. Yeah. So I guess since the game has come out, how's the reception been? Evie being the main driving bad guy, I guess if you want to call her.
Let's call her a big bad because it's funny in that she's little.
Yeah,
Not a big.
she's the big bad. How has that been, the reception of you stepping into this villainous character and joining the Resident Evil family in the bigger picture?
It's been really cool. You know, what's funny is that a lot of times when I'll play a character for whatever commercial or something, somebody, your ancient high school friends or somebody that knew you in elementary school or whatever will write you out of the blue like, oh my God, I saw you on this. I recognized your voice on this. Nobody really from my circles recognized Eveline. It was literally when people had been playing the game for maybe a week or so or a couple of days, and all of a sudden we're like, I feel like I know this voice. And I had one or two people like really tentatively, like they would be like as if I'd be offended, reach out and like, are you, crazy? Are you Eveline? Are you
It's like
And
something whispering about it.
right, or some that had checked out IMDb and saw had seen it, and we're like, what? So it's been a mixed bag of non-belief, disbelief. There we go, and kind of hiding within the shadows of it to surprise people, I guess. Because as we mentioned, yeah, having this whole list of like Disney cartoony characters, she's a little outside of that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
It's been fun though. I love, you know what, the fans have been amazing. The cast is obviously amazing. It's been really cool to be folded into this community.
yeah. What's your takeaway from the character after you've experienced and everybody else has experienced her? Is there anything that you've held on to her that still sticks with you? That's still right at the tip of your head, basically, when you think about her?
Well, I would say that in order to play anything, especially a villain, you can't go into it with anything other than knowing that you're the good guy in your own head. You have to connect to that
Mm-hmm.
being right in your head. And if anything, it's an insight into anytime we see someone in real life act or be in a way that it appears villainous on our end, to realize that they more than likely think they are doing the right thing. They are
Right.
committed. They are in the right because we all are the protagonist in our own stories, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
So that's how I approached her. Is that how could she be doing anything but the right thing? She's looking for a family,
Mm-hmm.
and that's something that I think is rather that wanting to belong and have someone love you. That's pretty universal.
Yeah.
So it wasn't hard to lock into that and to just be searching for that, no matter what.
Right. No matter
Is
what.
where you can cross the line and it becomes scary, and but it comes from an honest place. So I think a part of my heart will always be a little broken for her, and that I kind of still want her to get her dang family.
Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe she'll win in the end. I don't know. The saga's not over yet, right? Or maybe it is. I don't know. Who knows? Come on, guys.
It's
There's going to be more Resident Evils. Bring her
yeah.
back.
There's an interesting. That's a very interesting point because
This is my pitch. I want to be, yeah, let's just have the Eveline game.
just her. Let's do a prequel of her 10 years, or I don't know how quickly she ages because she goes from
Right?
the
So
10-year
she's
girl apparition to an old lady, so she's rapidly developing.
she can, but I believe it was that she's kind of like suspended at a certain age, right?
Mhm.
Or it's slowed and then kind of stopped, and then they can accelerate for different reasons. I don't know. I
Well,
got the whole rundown at one point, and I was like, that's a lot. Where am I
that's a
right
lot.
now?
Yeah. What's
But
my
we'll just
lines?
stay there.
Yeah. What age do you want me at right now?
And
uh,
also, keeping out of order kind of makes it a little an adventure.
yeah, it's a good point.
Sometimes for things, we have different ways of keeping track of it. But I did not play the older version of her, the voice. So
Mm,
in this, it was lovely to have that complete contrast. I think
yeah.
with the actress that played her at that point.
Yeah, it's interesting to put it like that for her though, that she was in search of a family. Even though we don't really see those sentimental sides of her, it's a good point to remember that. And I always felt bad for the Bakers because she took over them, corrupted them, with the mold and getting inside their heads and turning them into
How
these
many times
evil,
can
these
yeah
evil
all
monsters.
all the evil things in the world that are done are almost always done with somebody thinking they're doing it for the greater good,
Right.
right? Or
Yeah.
so, yeah. So the consequences to others be damned. They're always
That's
striving.
a very interesting point. So, and we were talking about this earlier. Some of your other body of work, it was something that's always interested me that I never ever really get into. We were talking about the various voices in video games. Like you've been in GTA, you've been in Red Dead Redemption. Um, let's retract that a little bit for the audience here.
Okay.
Okay, so GTA, you did a couple different voices.
Mm-hmm.
No one specific that you know of, right?
Not named
Not
characters. I
named.
think I've found them, but it's been a number of years, so I don't know if I could relocate them. So yes, at that time, also, I don't know if the contracts have changed that much. They didn't have to tell you what game you were recording at the time you're recording it, so
Mm-hmm.
you just hear that you booked this game called whatever they're using for the code word for that point in time, and I'd be like, "You're filming Blue, cool," and you go in and they give you signs and tell you you're a character. Maybe you're a factory worker, and then you're an old cussing lady, and then and then while you're there, because they have you for 2 to 4 hours or whatever the slot is, they can fit in up to X number of characters. So they might be like, oh, we still got time. You can do kid voices. Try this street urchin. Try this hooker. There are more hookers and sex workers in video games and TV and film than I think there are in real life. I tell you.
Especially in GTA alone, there's probably more.
Goodness. Come on, female writers, help us out. But yes, they. So it was a hodgepodge and a mix and a surprise when the day before the game comes out, you get the call that hey, your game's coming out, and you're like, awesome.
Which one?
What game was it?
Yeah.
So that one was a surprise the day it came out, but a happy one. And then for Red Dead, I know I had an inkling of which game it was. I knew it was one of two, just based off the animatics, to like what I was seeing and kind of the language
Right.
used in playing. And then and they've been recording for a while, so I kind of had some leaks. But then they fit us with helmets and cams, and you get your sides, and you are in there for the session. And for that one, I just did one character, but a whole bank of potential
Dialogue,
responses,
yeah, dialogue choices, and yeah.
interactions. And then I didn't know what would happen or what she'd look like until it came out. And then somebody recognized that voice. I mean, like, is this you? And sent me a little video of it. And I was like, that is my voice. I had no idea. Thank you for finding me. And then we went in to find it, I think, on Diane Hutton's Twitch channel. She did, I think it says Abraham Lincoln or something. She's
Abraham Lincoln.
She is adorable. And we played that as well as Resident Evil, trying to find my characters. And we found the one. I play a whore in Valentine by the stairs. But when we found her this time, she looked a little different, but it was my voice, and I could still hear the same bank of responses depending on what you did to her, at her. And the third time we found her, she was totally different, like different outfit, different width, hairstyle,
body parameters.
I was like, okay, I guess this changes. So that world is so deep and so wide and magical. So they've really spent a lot of time making sure that it's not something that's you're not gonna get bored in.
Yeah, no, I put many of hours into both of those games. I still do, actually, because I still enjoy both of them a lot. There's so much you can do in them.
Immersion.
Yeah. So do you remember any of the lines that, like, for GTA or Red Dead, one of these ones where you're doing the various, street urchins or
off the top of my head, that would be 1,000% real. Although I think some of them are on my reels, my game reel. For Red Dead, it's mostly like can I help you, and leave me alone, and that stuff. And then the more you harass her, the more insistent she gets, and like help somebody, and like she's not having it. But golly. Some of them are terribly random. I remember like a lot of cussing as a factory worker, little old lady, and a lot of screaming after people, insults and stuff as a little street urchin.
So everybody remember Paula's voice, and then go find her characters, so we can get those recorded and see what she has to say.
But no, it's always a treat. It's we get to play and make believe. We get to be, perma kids in a way, in the best way. while still getting to choose what nights we eat pizza, I guess.
Then back to the pizza, full circle.
Mhm.
Yeah, I always find it funny to, because I put so many hours in these games, to just kind of hang out in an area and listen to all the banter around me and appreciate all these people who aren't being credited as a certain character. Because there's a lot of work that goes in these games. A lot of people are putting in their work, but not getting, the big accolades behind it. So it's nice to kind of appreciate that.
And it's such a wonderful community. I will say, as I mentioned, you have to have this great family around you or build your own little um, studio of friends. Uh, the voiceover community is the least cutthroat or competitive, I suppose. It's just supportive and wonderful. At least the part of the pool that I've that I dive into, that I'm in, and
Dove
so
into?
through.
Yeah.
Yeah, uh, it's really wonderful to see them cheer each other on and work to help improve each other and give advice or help if we need something like tech help. It's There are definite support groups out there and communities that will welcome other voice
I
actors.
was kind of thinking about that point earlier, talking about like the Resident Evil 7 cast and past, what we have now for the last 4 years. Um, you guys seem very tight knit. You may not, be very, very, very close, but it seems that you're very interactive with each other on some point. That you keep, those close friendships and support each other. And not that the ones before that didn't do it. It's just I don't have a whole lot of experience interviewing so many other people because they're not as involved in the series as they are as you guys are now, or as actively wanting to be involved. So it's really nice to be able to sit down and talk with all of you and enjoy this time. Like I know 7 came out several years ago, but we finally have got you on here, and I finally got time to spend time and talk with you. So I'm glad you had the free time today to hang out with us.
Yeah. Before distance learning comes and steals us away again.
Yeah, no, we were
Oh,
talking about our kids, both of them being in distance learning. It's crazy. It's a weird world we live in right now. It's very weird.
hats off to all the parents and all these teachers and kids picking up all these new skills. So.
Definitely. And everybody in chat, I'm still looking. If you guys have questions, go ahead and put them in. We've got
Yeah.
about 15 minutes or so left here. So, where would you like to go next for your career? Do you want to circle back to Resident Evil game, or is there some kind of role that you've been looking for, or just taking
Um,
whatever comes your way?
well, that would be cool. Like I said, I will totally pitch the heck out of that to
Yeah.
Capcom. If they want to do a whole spin-off with Evie, let's do it. They would be a joy to work with again anytime.
Yeah.
And it's tough because I think one of the things you learn going along as an artist of any type is that if you make it goal oriented, your happiness hinging on that, like I must win X award or I must do this, make a movie about this next. You're kind of setting yourself up for epic disappointment or humiliation.
Yeah.
And we get enough of that in our many, many no's in this line of work. So I think maybe just for my own mental sanity, what I've landed on is that I have to really embrace the journey. And anytime I get frustrated or just completely distraught, because that so happens, I think to all of us, I have to really ask myself, am I happier doing this than anything else? And the answer has always been yes so far. And if I'm just really unhappy or stuck in a rut or something, I have to be like, well, what story do I want to tell next? And I've had to rely on telling it myself lately, and finding the confidence and the footing to do that. And so, like, I actually over Christmas break, yay, have just completed my first feature film as a director.
Oh,
Which
as a
is really
director too.
exciting.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you. I wrote, directed, and was the lead. My husband and I were the leads and entire production crew for a movie that we shot over our first pregnancy. Which, granted, look, 2 kids, they take a lot longer to wrangle afterwards for post. So it took us a hot minute to finish the sucker, but we did, and I'm so excited to get it out there. It's called Delicate State,
Hmm.
and so I'll be trudging the new path of looking for distribution, I guess, on that. But finding the ability to tell your own stories and that power. I mean, we live in a time where everybody has the means to tell a story, be it writing, be it filming, and getting it out there in any number of ways. So there's not that much room for excuse other
Hmm.
than, well, you got a lot of Netflix to watch, like go
Yeah.
tell your story.
Yeah. Really.
So I'm really proud of that we managed to get this wonderful team around us to complete this bad boy. But yeah, it's us documenting our first pregnancy, and you start to realize that we have our heads in the sand about something. That the greater world around us is spiraling off into civil war in the U.S. Not something we uh, had thought about much in 2015 when we first started shooting.
Yeah.
But something that I'm really cheering on. Better remain a cautionary tale
Yeah.
at this point. There's definitely shots that I paid for VFX for that now I'm like, well, gosh darn it, I could have gone and filmed it. Um, Scarily now, but
Mm.
we kind of explore what it's like to face what families around the world face with having to bring life in the middle of a war, and that's something so foreign here. And yet, I think it's important for us to realize possibilities in order to avoid them sometimes. So it's
Yeah.
a really cool film that I'm proud of, and I'm excited to have completed. So yeah, tell your stories. If I can do
Uh,
it pregnant with just my husband as fellow filmmaker, y'all can do this.
there is, if there's a will, there's a way, and there's a lot of wills and ways and a lot of possibilities right now, especially with YouTube, all
Yeah.
the streaming platforms. There's so many capabilities that people could take advantage of. When is this? When are you releasing it anytime soon? Is it
Well, I'm going to explore options for distribution
okay?
and have some really cool people involved. So we'll shoot for the moon to try and see how wide we can get it out there, and then I'll definitely be sharing information. But if you want to follow us, that film is on Twitter. You can follow us at delicate_state, or you
Okay.
can follow me on all the socials at Paula_Rhodes. I know, look, guys, I only have so much creativity. Okay, and yeah, and I keep people updated there on all various adventures as I can announce them.
And the movie is called Delicate State.
Yeah,
Okay.
and there are some really exciting things in the pipes that I imagine that probably some of the this audience will have some crossover interest in. So stay tuned.
Okay. Great. Great. I did see one question come up here, and we kind of just briefly went over it about Evie's age. Bob Millen wants to know: was Evie always a child, or an old lady, or something else, or just one or the other? I feel like since we see her as the old lady the whole time, the apparitions that we see of her as a child are just hallucinations in our head, and that's just an
Um,
impact of her being in the area still.
so this is just how it was explained to me, and this is trying to remember from years ago.
Hmm.
Uh, but I believe it was explained, and that she was created in a lab as this sort of weapon, right? And so as an embryo through childhood and raised in the lab. So when you first see her, she is a child, although it might have been that she's been a child for 30 years and still looks like a child. We don't know. And then when she's not given a certain I believe it's some sort of compound or something that she's given while living there. If she's away from that, which after the crash she
Right,
is,
that becomes.
she ages rapidly, or it's something that causes her to age rapidly. So you see
Mhm.
her as an old lady after a while, but it's only after she's with the Bakers, right? After
Right,
she's
you're right, because she shows up as a girl. They rescue her from the wreckage as a girl,
so
but there
she
she's
really
with them for
is
3 years. So
whether or not that is a in human years girl or just
true.
a
Yeah,
period
true.
that
Yeah.
I'm not entirely positive on. But for my purposes, I was a girl
Hmm.
for playing it, and then and she can rapidly age, and then she can also, I believe, siphon the energy off to change back younger at that key point in the story. But
Yeah,
that was, I believe, how it was explained to me.
that makes sense, and that's kind of what
I'm
I
sure
picked
they're
up.
smarter than I.
That's what I had picked up. She was in a biological experiment that they were had produced, and she was on a system of injections or whatever she was taking to manage her growth rate. And
Right,
then when she loses that, that's when she starts to rapidly age. And what we catch up to is she's, like I said, 3 years with the Bakers at that point.
right.
And you
She has
show
to
up
be.
and she's already an old lady, but her impact of being around there is her manipulation, the hallucinations of getting in people's heads, and that's why you keep
Mhm.
seeing her as a girl. And that's probably what she
It's
sees herself as. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um,
Which I think tracks, being as every person over 80 or so that I've known, if you actually ask them, like, how do you feel in your head? Most of them will give you an answer that is definitely not 80.
yeah, definitely not
So,
80.
yeah, most of them are like, I don't know, 27, 40. So
uh,
every now and then I think my grandpa told me he was pretty sure he was still 19. And you're like,
I know my mom
Yeah.
stopped keeping count, so she's 25.
Well,
That's all she says. I'm
I
25.
mean, golly, I feel like sometimes, yeah, I feel like I've just kind of paused at a certain age. I'm like, let's just stay here for a while,
Right.
as long as we can get away with it.
The Resistance asks, do you have a favorite line from Evie that maybe you remember?
Oh gosh, I
It's been a while for you because you were filming
it's been
this. It's
years.
been what, maybe
I do
5
like
years for you?
like if he doesn't want to be my daddy, then he can die. Like that stuff was very much
Perfect.
like, oh, I will take the power back. But I remember a couple of those more her grasping power stuff, and a lot of wicked, evil little laughs. I feel like I laughed and ran away
uh,
frequently.
I wish we had seen more of Evie throughout the game, but I think that just makes it more powerful when you do see her because you're sitting there like in this grime, you're fighting the molded, you're fighting the
And figure it
bakers,
out.
destroyed house, but then this little girl pops up occasionally with her combat boots, you know, and kind of throws you off for a second. And it's she's a great character. I think she's one of those better Resident Evil villains to come along. Very unique in her own way, as they all are, but she is very different in her own way. So it's nice to have something fresh on there.
It was a joy to play her, and a joy to still, be able to connect with people who love the game and are discovering it, and or diving deeper, or rediscovering it. So hi, thank you so much, all of you, for watching and playing.
So we talked about your social media. They can follow you at Paula_Rhodes on Twitter.
Yeah,
Is that your
and
primary
Instagram.
source or Instagram as well? Paula underscore
Yeah,
Rhodes.
I
Okay,
was
thanks.
I was on early enough to snag my name for most of them. So
Yeah, perfect.
and not either. I don't know if it would be smart enough, savvy enough, or just unafraid enough. Maybe it's a mix of all three. I just use my own name, so
Perfect. Yeah. I put an underscore in there, and usually it's okay.
yeah,
You
yeah.
put an underscore or a period, and you can usually use your name for stuff for social media at least.
Mm.
Do you have any parting words to the fans? Any praise, thank yous, advice?
So many praises, I suppose, for watching and playing. But you know what? I love to leave people with that advice of find the story that you want to tell.
Mhm.
And I think we all have something to impart that can be kind of your little bit of eternity, something you're going to leave on, and find a way to tell it. I
Very, yeah.
highly encourage that.
So have faith in yourself, surround yourself with the right people, and find your
Mhm.
story to tell.
Yeah.
Everyone has a story, and write your story. It's out there. I'm sure you guys have ideas in your head that you want to put out into the world for people to appreciate. And now is a good time to do that. There's so many
Right.
outlets for you.
Yeah,
Um,
it doesn't have to be right. It's finding your medium, whatever that might be. Maybe it's doing Instagram reels or whatever it is. Like people are finding their way to tell their story, to get their voice out there, and to change hearts and minds for the better if possible. Because we could use some of that, guys.
go do dances on TikTok. I don't
Do it.
know.
Just cheer that the heck up, okay?
What about maybe in voice acting? Is there any advice for people who are looking to get into the industry or acting in general? Like besides having faith, surround yourself with the right people. Is there something
Right.
that you've learned along the way outside of those two that's kept you going or helped you, give you that reinforcement of what you're doing?
Yeah, do the research. It's out there. It's not hard now. It's not like you even have to go to a library. Google, read, follow. Join Facebook groups of fellow actors, see what they're doing, see where they're finding auditions, where they're studying, how they're working now, what equipment's required. You just kind of got to find the corner that you fit in
Mm-hmm.
and then learn about it because that knowledge is going to be your power. It's going to be how you realize it's not that daunting, it's not impossible. Dumber people than you do this every day. So just, you know, find your footing one step at a time and plot your course. If that's what you decide to do, you can do it.
You know, my time in the military, I went through some difficult training and schooling, but
Yeah.
I always kept that in my mind. The whole light at the end of the tunnel thing. But there's also the fact that thousands of people were doing this every day. I can do it too. Yeah. It's not that they're special. You're part of that group too if you just put the work in.
And we're all going to have our own unique hurdles as
Hmm.
well as our own unique benefits.
That's true.
So
Yeah,
the
that's true.
things that might be problematic for you in regular adult life, they can be gifts as an artist. The things that break our hearts are what make us relatable as an artist.
Right.
Um, there are no good artists that haven't had a broken heart. There just aren't in some
That's true.
way, that haven't
The,
been hurt,
the
because
scars in
that's
our
what
heart are the story that we tell.
exactly, that's the in that other people relate to, that they connect to your empathy that way.
Mhm.
So using what might be weaknesses in other situations as your strength as a storyteller, I think, uh, it's empowering beyond words.
Mhm. Here's one last question from Bob before we wrap this up. I like this question because you have experience in the volume, working in motion cap, working with the team, your fellow actors around you, as well as being in a booth and recording by yourself. Bob wants to know. I have one more question, Paula. Is it better for voice actors to record separately or together as far as immersion and emotion?
That is so very contingent on the actor and the actors you're working with and the situation. There is pure magic that can happen when you get to record with actors. Um, I've done episodes of Barbie as well as like Justice League Action. I played a young Constantine. Um, and then we got to do that in a group recording. Ah, oh, it's so fun. It's so fun to play and feel the rhythm. And yet, if you have, weak links anywhere, or you are the weak link maybe that day, there are situations in which it is just so much more empowering to just have the freedom to do 3 wild takes and they can find the best one that fits. In a booth by yourself in the dark where nobody really it feels like is watching. So while it's entirely contingent on the actor and the situation, my own personal preference is usually with other actors if I can, just because that connection
Right.
elevates things somehow.
Right.
Um, but with the right director, you can get around that because they kind of help you find the connection.
Yeah.
So depending on the project and what your role is in it, maybe you're the director and you need to fill those shoes of being the rest of the cast.
Right.
That's a tough one to answer. It's either or.
Either or, depending on the situation, I imagine. Yeah. On the
Yeah,
project.
but I am also super, super lonely right now after not seeing people for a year. So in general, if I had my druthers, I look forward to acting with people again.
Yeah.
Oh, so
Being on
much
set
fun.
again with a whole bunch of people around you, working off other people. I
That energy
noticed
is magic.
ProXY made a point earlier. ProXY One Creations, one of our mods, always Mr. Faithful there. He said, so Evie, Disney princess confirmed?
Right? Come on, Disney.
Right? I can see her sitting there with Doc.
I don't mind going back every Halloween and doing a parade.
And all the white dress and combat boots. I still love her combat boots.
Goals. Look,
yep,
I can dream.
Goals. All right, well, we'll go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I hope you had a good time. I answered some of your questions. We'll be I'm trying to do these once a month, bring someone else on that we haven't had a chance to talk to and sit down and spend at least an hour with them. So look forward to more in the future. And Paula, thank you so much for giving me your time today, giving us your time, hanging out. I had a lot of fun talking to you.
Me too. It's been a joy. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, guys, stay tuned. Friday night stream with JJ and Corey on Code Veronica X, I believe is what they're playing right now. Outside of that, we will see you next time here on the Residents of Evil.